Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Chicago online worship. I am John Martin Edinger, a member of this congregation, and I serve on the congregational board, and it's my honor to be your worship associate this morning. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but the values we share, and the mission to grow our souls and heal the world. Whether you are joining us online for the first time, or you've worshipped with us 1,000 times, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. No matter how much money's in your pocket, no matter if you have a PhD, a GED, or no degree, you belong here. We are a people of many races and beliefs. We are a people of many genders and sexual orientations. All of you is sacred. All of you is welcome. You belong here. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, we must distance ourselves physically, but we can stay connected. In addition to weekly worship on our YouTube channel, follow us on our Facebook page for fresh pastoral content during the week. We have several small groups meeting by phone and Zoom video conferencing for both connection and church business. To get involved, check your weekly email blast or email the church office for more information. Contact information is available on our website. If the economic hardships of coronavirus are affecting you, the church is at your side. Our ministers can refer you to resources as well as offering one-time grants from the minister's discretionary fund to members and friends of this congregation. For more information, just contact the church office to be in touch with Reverend Teri or Reverend David.
Hi again. I just wanted to take a quick moment for a couple of religious education announcements. As a reminder, religious education is held for students via Zoom on Sunday mornings. Anybody who is in pre-K through grade 3 should attend the family-oriented class. That class occurs from 9:15 to 9:45 each Sunday morning. Youth who are in 4th grade up through 8th grade should attend the older grades class, which is being held from 11 o'clock until noon, and youth group for high schoolers occurs from 12 until 1 each Sunday. If you need help accessing those course offerings, please reach out to me, your DRE, via email, the website, or Facebook, and I would be happy to help. Lastly, in the past couple of weeks, I've gone ahead and started a religious education hangout night. So on Wednesday nights, families who would like to are welcome to join me on Zoom for just fellowship time with other families and time to chat and hang out. If there are youth who want to hang out with their other church friends at that time, all they have to do is sign in separately from their family on their own device, and I will make sure that they get where they need to be to play Pictionary or other games or just hang out and chat. So thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Throughout today's service, you can interact with one another through the comments section. Simply log into your account or create a new YouTube account to leave comments, reactions, and to share prayer requests. I invite you now to be present in this moment. Let us enter into the service together as the prelude begins.
Good morning and welcome. As we enter into worship together this morning in our virtual sanctuary, take off your mask. The mask we wear outside, our physical, literal masks, but any other mask you might have on, the one that says, I'm okay, everything's all right. It could be the various roles we play. Parent, child, spouse, grandparent, friend. Could be our occupation or lack of occupation that is on our hearts and mind right now. I invite you now to set it down, to know that you are enough, just as you are. You don't have to be, become, or do anything to be welcome in this space and to be enough. Come, whoever you are, into our worship together. I light our chalice because it's the reminder of the good words we hear each week, our connection to those who came before, our connection to one another in the here and now, and our connection to those who will come after us. And as I light this, may the light and warmth of this flame remind us that we are not alone and that we are enough just as we are. And together we make this world a better and brighter place. Would you please join me in reciting our covenants? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I invite you to warmly greet your neighbor in our comment box of friendship. Type or say hello or use an emoji to greet those around you gathered from near and far.
Good morning. At this time, please gather those who are young or young at heart and your furry friends for a time for all ages. Thank you. And congratulations, you made it to your computer for another Sunday. Your computer right now is a ticket to the outside world, for better or for worse. First, let me say that there are some great things about it, both for kids and for adults. There are conversations with friends from near and far, crazy cool games, and schoolwork many times at your own pace for those who are in school. Like, you don't have to wait for someone else to finish before you move on to the next thing, and you don't have to compare yourself to that kid who did manage to finish everything in like 5 seconds. For many of you, you don't have to ask your teacher if you need a break. If you need some water, go get it. Feeling kind of lonely? Grab a stuffed animal or a pet and let them keep you company while you do your work. Feel like drawing when you're done? Absolutely fine, go for it. But, of course, there are some drawbacks as well to this style of life. Most noticeably, the socializing that we love doesn't feel quite the same in the digital world. And speaking of socializing, I want to chat for a moment about social media. And wait, don't go. I promise this isn't going to be a doom and gloom, Snapchat and your phone and TikTok are going to melt your brain kind of thing, right? There are definitely benefits to using social media, just as there are benefits to using a computer for all the other ways that I'd mentioned. But I want to take a moment to remind you that your life online is still not the same thing as your life in the real world, and that's especially true when it comes to social media. That friend posting a picture of the beach that they went to in January, he's probably feeling just as cooped up as you right now. And that friend who said that he started learning a new language, great, but they might be spending the rest of their day curled up in a ball, swiping through their feed, not feeling like themselves at all, just the same way that you are. And that friend who all of a sudden said they can do 30 sit-ups, well, number one, that's just something that they said. And people can say all kinds of things. And if they can, well, that's good for them. But the truth is that people can share all kinds of things online and they can portray themselves as super happy and super successful, but that doesn't mean that they are. And it doesn't mean that you should be. Many people share the very best of what they are doing out there, and honestly, most of us aren't at our best right now, and that's okay. And no, I don't think this means that you need to go and share the worst of what's going on out there on your social feed to balance things out. In fact, if you wouldn't say it in a grocery store, you probably shouldn't say it online. Your friends can see it, your family can see it, and furthermore, they can share it with whoever they feel like sharing it with. That means that people who are strangers to you have access to that information, or that they can. Once you put something out there, it's out there, and granted, you should share whatever you feel it's appropriate to. After all, sometimes it does help to know that others are feeling very much the same way that you are, but this is me encouraging you to keep your privacy and your comfort in mind, and share only what you feel like putting out there. Furthermore, if you feel like you do need someone to talk to and you are feeling down, choose someone that you really trust to talk to, text, or call. See, there's this thing, it's called a cell phone, and if you dial a phone number, you get it, I'll stop. But if you're not close to someone and you do still want to talk, you should also know that there are many phone numbers and also websites that you can either chat with online, or if you're someone who feels more comfortable texting, there are text lines that you can use 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for free, confidentially. Some of those hotline numbers are even there just for teens, and I'll go ahead and drop some useful resources into the chat box and also email them out to families. Don't ever go thinking that you're not bad enough to reach out. Your thoughts and your feelings are valid, and whether you're choosing to talk to friends or family or the trained people on the other end of one of those phone number or text lines, those people are there for you. And if you want to call, well, then you are reason enough for that person to be on the other end of the line. If you do want to talk more regularly about what's going on and you don't have someone with whom you are close with to chat with, please know that mental health professionals are doing telemedicine the same way that doctors are for other illnesses. And if you're under 18, all you have to do is talk to your parents about the right ways to connect. Lastly, no matter how young or old you are, please hear this. It's okay to not be okay. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe and take care.
Will you join with me in the spirit of prayer and meditation? We'll begin with a breath together. Our words for meditation this week are by Ralph Waldo Emerson, this called The Snowstorm. It says, "The snowstorm, the 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 snowstor Some of our youth and religious education classes were talking about this a week or two ago, talking about what prayer was. And that part of what it is acknowledging the world around us, and part of what it is thankfulness and gratitude for the blessings that we do have, for the health that we have, however temporary it is, and for the snow covering the city this week, this called the snowstorm. Announced by all the trumpets of the sky, arrives the snow, and driving o'er the field seems nowhere to alight. The whited air hides hills and woods, the river and the heaven, and veils the farmhouse at the garden's end. The sled and traveler stopped. The courier delayed. All friends shut out. The housemates sit around the radiant fireplace, enclosed in a tumultuous privacy of the storm. Will you join with me in silence for 7 breaths? For me, sometimes those 7 breaths are an opportunity to come back to where I am again, to reground, even in this moment of pause, when there might be so much silence in your life or so little silence in your life at home with kids. The breaths are a space for us to find ourselves again. Spirit of life and love, called by many names, called God, called love, called life itself, called beyond all names. That central and abiding mystery of living, which we direct our attentions towards. Our hope and our prayer this morning is to be who we are and to be where we are, to remember all of those people we care for. We hold in our hearts parents and teachers, all those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for children, a practice which may be sorely tested these days in this time of mandatory school cancellations, now through the end of this year, and of quarantine, and of all the good things and all the challenging things of living with little ones. We are with you. We pray and we remember those who live with grief or with chronic pain, people who live with mental disability, with addiction, people who are at high risk, all of those people who move through the world looking one way, but immunosuppressed, with heart or lung conditions, with diabetes, illnesses that are unseen, and those seen. We're with you. We're with your loved ones. For our neighbors in prison, who are at greater risk of infection, for our neighbors in nursing homes, who suffer with isolation, we're with you. And you may be lonely, but you are not alone. For those who care for family in ill health, for those who care for loved ones while ill themselves, those who can't see loved ones in person because of mandatory confinement, we're with you. If you're struggling to stay afloat in the midst of poverty, facing financial insecurity, without health insurance, we're with you. We remember you. We are together. We hold in our hearts those plagued by loneliness, by tedium that feels like powerlessness when the world is in such great need. Our hope in our prayer this morning is to remember what matters, to remember this web of connection that ties each of us together. to remember in the days to come to measure the success of our country by how we serve those with the least. We pray in gratitude for all those working tirelessly, doctors, nurses, pandemics, pharmacists, all the support staff, everyone who makes medical care possible, researchers working to understand the virus, to reduce transmission, to create prevention and treatment, epidemiologists, public health officials, journalists. We remember, and we remember with gratitude all those truth tellers saving lives. And we pray with thanks for all those people risking their own well-being, that our society, that our world carries on. Bus drivers, Lyft and Uber and taxi drivers, grocery deliverers, couriers, postal workers, warehouse workers whose jobs, all of these, hard enough already. We're with you and we're grateful for you. Janitors and facility maintenance staff, everyone disinfecting businesses, clinics, hospitals, schools, the checkout clerk wiping down the belt on the cash register after every customer. Your work is life-saving. And we remember and we call to mind and we say with sorrow and gratitude the reality that our lives are blessed by those who knowingly, with curiosity and courage, face their final days. We love you. I invite you to speak aloud into the room, into the house where you are, to the people you're with, or to type into the comment box the name of anyone you wish to lift up in prayer in the love and the support of this community. We pray for these good souls, the ones spoken aloud, the ones added in chat, the people remembered and the people forgotten. Amen.
Welcome, friends, to the Schwartz family living room. I'm here by the fire, and I'm thinking that I'll welcome you into our home here this morning. I hope you're making yourself comfy, have coffee or tea, and that this has been a time to connect with one another. So, we are just in bizarre times right now. You don't need me to tell you that. But we have a tremendous amount of stress related to this pandemic, everyone. And what I want to share today, first, is something that I keep by my side of the bed. It says, "It's okay not to be okay." And I put this on a tissue box on my nightstand so I'd see it, and then also remember when I'm feeling sad that that's not a failure or a fault or a weakness, that is part of living our full humanity, and it's okay. About 2 weeks ago, I noticed that the WBEZ website, which I had been following for news as it was breaking, stopped doing updates every few hours in a timeline, and they switched to a different format on their website, focused more on stories and daily news rather than hour by hour. And that's kind of where we're at right now, right? We're pivoting from this crisis state to what can be a chronic state, from a marathon, a sprint rather, to a marathon. And that is challenging because we're still adapting through a crisis. Things are still changing at a pace faster than normal, and we don't know how long this will last or exactly what will unfold. And it can be a really difficult time, particularly for people who already have mental illnesses, sensitivities to trauma, history, as well as the stresses financially and health-wise and family-wise right now. So what I want to say is it's okay not to be okay. The church is here at your side. And not knowing how long this is all going to last is one of the particular forms of torture of the coronavirus. And that is super overwhelming. So what I want to suggest is that we take it one day at a time. Because while no one can tell us exactly what's going to happen or when, there have been various estimates and projections by various officials, some more knowledgeable than others. But what we do know for sure is that until a vaccine or treatment is developed that is effective and is accessible, and that there's accurate and adequate tracing of the virus, our lives will be disrupted to some extent, whether that's in large part, small part, or somewhere in between. And while we won't go back to a normal the way it was prior to the pandemic, we will eventually get to a new normal. But that seems like a long way from here. And when I look at the future like that, I tend to try to imagine like 180 days just like today, and I have to go through them all straight. And what I tend to forget is that I'm going to have more energy and resources tomorrow. Like, I don't have to do tomorrow on top of today. I just have to do today. And when tomorrow comes, I will hopefully have a good night's sleep, or at least something. I will have the nourishment of whatever I ate today to take me into tomorrow. And sometimes a day at a time is too much. And if that's how you're feeling, I get that. And sometimes what I have to do is think like a segment of the day. Like, I'm just going to do this for this morning. And then I'm going to see what's happening. I'm not going to try to get too far ahead of myself. Sometimes by the hour. If things are really difficult, I sometimes have been known to break things into the next 15 minutes. A day at a time. An hour at a time. A friend told me once just to put blinders on like a horse, look down, and do the next best right thing. And if you don't know what the next best right thing is, there's probably lots of good things or decent things. Just do that. And keep paddling. Just keep paddling. Keep on swimming. And I have a little duck to remind us, particularly as we're talking with friends and family and loved ones, that, ducks swim along the pond and everything looks so smooth. There's hardly any ripple or wake behind them. But if you look under the waterline, their little feet are just going incredibly fast and they're working super hard. And that is how it is with all of us right now, whatever challenges we're facing. So while we keep on swimming, let's have some grace for ourselves and one another, because underneath the surface, there's just so much work happening. And when we have so much work and so much anxiety, we're not at our best. We might regress into old habits or patterns. We might, families might notice more tantrums, sometimes even from the children. And we are not our worst day. What matters most is what we do next. And it might just feel a little more brittle. I've been feeling like there's just not that much cushion. Like if I was driving a bumper car, that bumper there would hardly have any cushion in it. And I'm just feeling that whatever circumstances the day brings kind of hits with fuller force. And that's the case with so many of us right now. And that is inherently is okay. And we can have some grace and softness for ourselves as we do for one another. It's really easy during this time too to do something that I have a particular talent for, and this is called compare and despair. When we look at others in our lives and then come up with some sense of inadequacy. Facebook is just a great place for indulging in this dubious luxury of compare and despair, because it is curated. It is what is the public or semi-public narrative of what's happening in our lives. It is not the place of not appropriately the place where we're really gonna put down all the masks. But it does mean that it's worth checking in with one another more deeply in a way that respects privacy and knows that my friend is just going along smoothly, but underneath the water, there might be a lot more going on. And I think it creates this part of this curated reality in social media, along with some American culture, I think creates this cultural value on strength rather than a connection through vulnerability. And I think there's theological roots in this. So if you go back to the beliefs of Calvinism and its descendants, so there was a pressure socially to behave in a morally upright way to demonstrate that one was preordained and predestined for salvation. It sounds kind of wacky to us with contemporary ears, but we do it all of the time when we feel that it's also the traditional theological debate of works versus grace. So when we feel like we have to do something perfectly and earn our way into some kind of place rather than being enough in who we are. And of course, life is a mix of what we do and our inherent worth and dignity. But so often as Americans, we really focus on what we need to do and appearances. I hear sometimes tough times don't last, but tough people do. And I find this really problematic. That can be kind of a short-term rally the troops kind of mantra. But what it's also saying is that if you're not strong and tough, you don't make the cut. If you have disabilities, mental illness, addiction, if you're feeling vulnerable right now for whatever reason, you're not a tough person. We need tough people to get through tough times. And I think it creates some degree of shame and stigma, even when well-intentioned. So I'd like to replace it with a corrective of tough times don't last, but you can. And while staying strong and keeping a brave face is important in crisis, and it's really important in the front lines and in a moment when all other things must be set aside and a task at hand must be attended to. But the body and the nervous system always keeps the score. Growing up in a military and first responder family, I could see this firsthand. The body will always make its truth known eventually, whether that's post-traumatic stress disorder, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, other stress-related illnesses that are life-threatening. The body keeps the score. And so we have a possibility to also live into an alternative, that when the moment doesn't absolutely demand that we set everything aside, to integrate and metabolize all the feels, to feel all the feels, and to connect with each other, a trusted friend, a therapist, us as your ministers. That is what we're here for. And we offer, as Unitarian Universalists, this theological grounding of the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That does not say the inherent worth and dignity of every tough person. It's the inherent worth and dignity of everybody. And that a reality we're interconnected in our web, and not one of us can go this alone. And that's true before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and it's going to be true after the pandemic. So as a corrective, I want to offer a sense of just do it pathetically. When in doubt and you've tried everything else, consider lowering your standards right now. So online, I get these emails about all these things that we could be doing right now for those of us who have the privilege to be at home and not be on the front lines, and to have financial security that we have some time on our hands. As a parent while working, I'm feeling really stretched for time. So that's not my experience of this time. So when all these suggestions come, it's like there's some kind of Olympics being held for the pandemic, that if you manage to clean your closet and go through great grandma's recipes and pick up a new hobby, as well as homeschooling the child, and enrichment activities too, because this is a special time. That somehow that there's some poster child that we can become in this pandemic, that we've made the most of this golden opportunity. And the reality is, for a lot of us, getting through the day has so much more stress and uncertainty than it did before. That's just kind of unrealistic. So what I want to say is to just do it, whatever the thing is that has to be done, and it can be pathetic, and that's plenty. So things I'm saying are lessons that were really helpful to me when my children were infants. If the dishes are clean in the dishwasher, you can just take them out from the dishwasher one at a time and use them and not put them away. I won't tell anybody. Same with laundry. The laundry never has to make the scenic voyage from the clean hamper into the drawer. You can take clean clothes out of that hamper and have a dirty hamper next to it and just have a very expedient circuit. I'm going to be really honest here. Look, there's one sock. There's two. They don't match at all. I would like to say this is a fashion statement, but really what it is those were the two socks I could find this morning. And you wouldn't know that on a Sunday morning, but this is the truth. So we'll get through it. And do it pathetically. Do it as you can, not as you can't. There is not going to be any gold, silver, and bronze platforms for any of us to stand on. And getting through the day is heroism enough. So just as we're going to assume that underneath the water, the duck is working really, really hard, also we can look for cues for one another about not just what we're saying, how we're feeling, but how we might be really feeling. And so rather than saying, you look great, you sound great, sounds like you've got all the support you need, you can just ask, because we really don't know. People who are struggling severely can look and sound great. We have a lot of pressure to keep up a certain persona, especially if we feel that our problems might burden somebody else when we know they're experiencing stress. So look at the way the wheels are turning. It's a pretty safe assumption to presume that everyone right now is traumatized on some level. So if we treat one another with the tenderness that we would treat someone if we knew they were ill, that they have a loved one who is ill, or that they lost their life savings and their employment, that is the level of gentleness that is safe to assume and care when we listen and reach out to one another. And that's also the kind of care we can extend to ourselves. Maybe so. And amen.
Friends, thank you for worshiping with us at First Unitarian today. We truly miss the opportunities to worship together with you in our space and are so grateful that you took the time out of your Sunday to tune in and worship together. This time of COVID-19 has shown us that we as a church community are more than what we do within our church walls. Instead, we have shown that church is something more. It's the phone calls, the video chats, and the groceries delivered to one another. Church, in today's world, is made up of the handwritten letters, the prayers for safety, and the thoughtful emails that we send to our church friends, just because we were thinking of them. We want to encourage you today to give financially what you can to our church as we continue to foster connection and community, even when we are apart. These are hard times, and we know that some in our community can financially give, and others cannot. We as a church support you, whatever your circumstances are in this pandemic. Whether you are an essential worker, working from home, or unable to work, you are welcome here. Belonging in this community is not contingent on your ability to pay or even how much you pay. You are part of this church just as you are. If you want to give to our congregation today, you can do so in two different ways. First, you can go online to firstuchicago.org and scroll all the way to the bottom to click on the donations button. Otherwise, you can donate by texting. The number is 773-900-6051. Once you go through the process of setting up an account via text, you can easily make donations to our church every week after that. Once again, thank you for being here with us today. In this unprecedented time, I am grateful to be your ministerial intern and a part of this community. Even though we are apart, through worship and fellowship together, we are very much connected.